In this video, I'm going to give you 6 different rackets to try and demo against if you actually like playing with the Babolat Pure Aero. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Brody Taylor. I've been working in a tennis retail store for the past 7+ years, and demos have been a very big topic as of recently at the store that I work at. Boys' high school season, they are getting ready to start playing a lot more. They've gone through tryouts. And now they're wanting to try a bunch of different rackets, and the Pure Aero has always been a big one for them. And even at the club levels, or even higher than that, even below that, the Pure Aero is a pretty dominant racket. Most people know what it is. However, because it's a Babolat racket, it does tend to be a little bit harder on the arm and cause tennis elbow a little bit more. So all 6 of these rackets are going to do or be designed to do something that the Pure Aero does, and have a very similar feel to it, but with a few key differences. So these are in no particular order. It's just easier to number 1 through 6. So let's get into it. So number 1 is actually going to be the Pure Aero 98. Now follow me here for a second. I know I'm out of frame, so follow me. The big thing about the Babolat Pure Aero 98 is that the Pure Aero 98 is a little bit more of a control-oriented racket compared to the regular Pure Aero. It's a little bit heavier, being about 305 grams unstrung, or about 10.8 ounces unstrung, 11.4 ounces strung, or about 320 to 323 grams strung. As well as you have a smaller head size. Instead of the standard 100 square inch head size, you have a 98, as well as a 16 by 20 string pattern in the Pure Aero 98, rather than the traditional 16 by 19 like the regular Pure Aero. So if you're just wanting kind of the upgrade version to your Pure Aero, you can generate a lot of the spin on your own. It's the racket's still helping you, but you just want a little bit more control. That's where the Pure Aero 98 comes in. And then you still stay within the Pure Aero line, and you have a very similar feel overall to everything that you're feeling and been playing with. Next up, number 2 is going to be the vcore 100 from Yonex. Now, the vcore 100, the big thing about Yonex rackets, if you have seen them or you've never seen them before, is that they do tend to be a little bit more of a square shape up top, and they call that their isometric head shape. That has allowed Yonex to space the strings out a little bit more to give you about a 7% larger sweet spot than almost every other racket that is available today. So the Yonex vcore 100 is essentially Yonex's spin version or spin racket, and so it's their biggest rival to the Babolat Pure Aero. So it's definitely something to try just to give you a different feel. It is, I believe, a little bit easier on the arm as well as the Babolat Pure Aero, which you'll see is a common theme with the rest of the list that we're going to go through. And you just have a little bit of a different shape to see what you think and see if it works and glides through the air a little bit easier for you rather than just sticking with the traditional Pure Aero. Cool. So that's number 2. Number 3, we are heading on down to head, and that is going to be known as the Extreme MP. So the Head Extreme MP, this is going to be Head's spin racket. As you can probably guess, all these are going to be the spin rackets from each of these brands. But the Head Extreme MP, especially the new version in 2020, that one came out in 2024, not 2025. But the new Head Extreme MP, the big thing that's different here is that there's more weight in the actual head of the racket. So like right near 12 o'clock, if you're looking at your racket, there's more weight towards that end of the racket rather than being in the middle or in the handle. So it's going to whip through the air a little bit faster, which you usually don't see with most spin rackets. This is going to give you a little bit extra plow through, so a little bit extra power, while still being a spin racket because of how the strings are spaced out, as well as being a little bit easier on your arm compared to the traditional Pure Aero. So it's definitely something to try out if you're curious about it. And if you've never tried a head racket before, just know that that extra head weight is going to make it feel a lot different when you're swinging through. So it's definitely something to be mindful of if you have never tried this before. It's kind of the only head racket to have that, so just something to be careful about. Then next up at number 4, we're leaving head. We are moving on to a brand you may not have heard of or you may not see as much anymore. And that is going to be my good friend Dunlop. And that is going to be the SX300. So the SX300, previous generations of the Dunlop SX300, they have been the spin frames, but they nearly had no where the amount of spin that the Pure Aero did, just because the strings were a lot tighter. This being my 300, if you look at it, right here in the middle, right around here, these are really close together. So this is one of the original versions of the Dunlop SX300. This one was a little bit more control oriented because of that string spacing. But now what they've done with the new 300s is that it's a lot more open. So you have a lot more access to the spin, you have a lot more access to the power, and it's just a much easier on the arm version than the actual Babolat is. It's also nowhere near as pricey as the Babolat is. I think the Dunlop SX300 is about $219 brand new, whereas the regular Pure Aero is about $259 or $269, depending on where you look, full price. So Dunlop, in my opinion, is always a great one to actually test and look into. So now we'll move on to number 5. This is going to be kind of a newcomer. This racket just released pretty early. I want to say it was this year as well. This is going to be called the Axis 100. And this, if you don't know, is from Diadem. So the big thing about the Diadem Axis 100 is that, in my opinion, this is almost a carbon copy of the Pure Aero, because if you look, the beam shape here in the throat and just how the actual racket looks is very, very identical. I'm not saying it's the exact same because that wouldn't be allowed. I'm sure Babolat would have sued Diadem by now if it was, but because it is cut very similarly, it is going to play very similarly. Again, I do believe that the Diadem Axis 100 is a little bit easier on the arm, but it still is the same 100 square inch head size, 16 by 19 string pattern, and you have the pretty much almost carbon copy, but just a little bit of a different feel of the Babolat Pure Aero in this Diadem Axis 100. So if you've never tried Diadem before, I think they've really done a good job with this new Axis line. And you do also have the Axis in the 98 to rival the Pure Aero 98. So it just depends on what you want out of the racket and the frame. And then finally, here at number 6, the brand that most people know, and you're probably wondering why I haven't talked about it yet, and it's going to be Wilson. Now, it's probably not the racket that you're thinking of, which is the racket that technically Wilson says is their spin racket right now. It's not the Shift. No, it's not that. I personally, since I've been around for a while in the tennis community, I personally like the Burn 100S a lot more than I like the Shift. Now, the reason I like the Burn 100S a lot more than the Shift is because of that S right there. That S stands for spin, or the spin effect pattern for the strings that Wilson put into that racket. So that racket, the Burn 100S, is an 18 by 16 string pattern. What this does is that you have a lot more space in between a string, so that thing is a spin monster. It is pretty much the same weight as the Pure Aero, but arguably generates even more spin than the Pure Aero ever will. Now, the one downside to that is, because you get so much more spin and the strings are moving so much to create that spin, you break string a lot faster with the Burn 100S. The other thing to know, though, because the Burn is not really one of Wilson's big lines anymore, is that the Burn 100S is also probably the most inexpensive on this entire list. So, if you want a very nice spin racket that is going to be very cheap or very easy on your pockets compared to the rest of these, then the Burn is a great one to go to. And because it is technically over $149, most tennis retail stores, or just tennis stores in general, probably have a demo still of this for you to try. So it's definitely something to at least give a chance, especially if you're wanting to save a little bit of money as well as you just want to try the different string pattern, because 18 by 16 you don't really see anymore. Traditionally, it's just the 16 by 19 if you want help with spin. Sometimes you'll get a 16 by 18, but overall, you never see an 18 by 16 anymore. So give it a try if you can. I think you will enjoy it, but you'll have to let me know down in the comments if you do. So with that being said, here's 6 rackets to try. Like I said, this is in no particular order just because all of these will be great and they all have different functions and characteristics to them. So if you are going to try them, let me know what you try down below and what your thoughts are comparing them to the Pure Aero. I'd love to know what you think, as well as like the video and subscribe to the channel so we can grow this channel, get the information out there from the people that have it to the people that need it. There's a lot of tennis misinformation in the tennis community, so I took it upon myself to make this channel so we can get rid of that and just enjoy the game of tennis we all love so much more without having to worry about injury from our gear. And as always, take care.